Hello everyone, this is Bradley. So today this is a fundamental tutorial of geometry nodes talking about auto smooth. So firstly, what's auto smooth? Here I have three cylinders, all of them looking very ugly because of this kind of sharp edges. To resolve this kind of sharp edges, what we usually do is you right click and there is an option of shade smooth. On the opposite, we have shade flat, which review all these kind of sharp edges. So let's turn on this shade smooth, and it looks kind of very nice, but there are also kind of artifacts that looks very unrealistic for this kind of shading. So what we do usually is we go to the mesh tab, and there's an option of shade smooth under the normal. So once you enable that, you smooth out all these kind of sharp edges on the side, but you retain these 90-degree sharp edges on the top and the bottom. Okay. However, if you try to turn on this auto smooth angle limit, maybe about 100, which is above 90, then you smooth out everything again. Okay, so this is basically the functionality of this auto smooth. So here comes to a question: is that do we have this functionality in geometry nodes? And the short answer is no. So I have this node tree of geometry nodes in which I'm having a procedural cylinder within the node tree. And it looks kind of very ugly because of these sharp edges. So again, we come to our initial solution that we need a node for shade smooth. So just so you know that if you directly right click to add shade smooth, you are adding shade smooth to the object. But this is a geometry from the node tree, so it does not really work. You have to add shade smooth using node. But there is no auto smooth option anywhere within this node. So one kind of workaround that we usually think about is now I'm having this shade smooth working on everywhere for every edges or every polygons, whatever it is. That's why it smooths out everything, creating this kind of artifact. So is that possible for me to deal with this selection so that only some of the edges will be smoothed out while the other edge will be retained? Fortunately, we have this edge angle since 3.1, I guess. So I also have this compare node, which is giving a less than functionality so that I can compare with an angle. So usually all this kind of angle output within the math is in radius, which means 2 pi means 360 degrees. Okay, I do not like doing the conversion, so that I just directly use a math node that contains a 2 radians so that I can convert everything automatically. So now what I'm thinking is if the assigned angles is less than 30, then we'll do the selection. And you see it does not really actually work. So if I change these values a little bit, it just doesn't work until the moment it's reaching 54.5 or whatever stuff. Okay, so now it starts work and they looks kind of very similar. There may be some differences, but I think it's more due to, I don't know, doesn't seem to be working as well as the auto smooth. So basically it says it does not work the same for some reason. If this method does not really work, is there any other workaround that we can actually do? And the answer is yes. If you have read how developer actually discuss the functionality of this auto smooth, then you will realize this auto smooth is not a property but an action. So what it does is basically it put a kind of a tag on certain edges to tell the render these are sharp edges, do not smooth them out, and basically that's it. So in such kind of case, we can do a workaround which is called edge split. So here I have the third cylinder, and it's kind of very ugly because we do not shade smooth. Let's shade smooth so we have this artifact, but I'm not going to use auto smooth to resolve it. Rather, I'm going to use a modifier which is called edge split. And by default, it edge splits at any kind of angle lower than 30 degrees. So now this is what we're looking at. This is basically the same result as this auto smooth. Okay, and if we try to put this edge angle above 90 degrees, so let's say 100, then it smooths out everything because there's no sharp edges. Everything is below the limit. Okay, so we can use this edge split method to do the auto smooth functionality within geometry nodes, since we have a node which is called split edges. So here, instead of using the selection within this set shade smooth, I'm going to put a split edges inside. By default, it will split edge all these kind of edges. So we have to define the selection. If I plug this compare into the selection, and let's take that into default of 30 degree, use the type of greater than, then we are only split edges for those angles which is larger than 30 degree, and then we get exactly the same result of this cylinder who has the auto smooth on. Okay, so these are identical. And to make it kind of convenient, you can make this entire 5 nodes into a node group, just like I did in my presets. Now it's called a set shade smooth or set shade auto smooth. Those kind of ugly name, but it's basically how it works. So you just hit M to disable all these kind of nodes, and you plug that in, you get exactly the same result. And this is the building. As you can see, just the 5 nodes. Very simple and easy. So let's just start with the other examples. So I have a cone, and I have this kind of shaded smooth, whatever ugly things. Let's just forget about this. And we're going to use the split edges, the same methods, and take the greater than. So now we have basically identical results, which is looking kind of very nice compared to the auto smooth one. They are basically the same. We can also try with the Suzanne. By default, the Suzanne with auto smooth is not very smooth. It looks kind of very ugly. You probably need to tweak a lot more values so that it looks kind of very smooth or very comfortable, but it's not the topic today. So now I have another Suzanne, which is using the presets, but basically the same node tree as I have shown earlier, and it's basically identical result. Okay, and what we can prove further is let's add a subdivision surface, just the group 1, so we can see this kind of sharp edges. And there's also kind of artifacts due to the topology issue of Suzanne. And let's try the same with Blender Suzanne. And basically we have exactly the same result of this kind of sharp edges and this kind of artifact. So I think here we basically replicate the auto smooth using this entire split edge method very well. I cannot come up with other example to prove that this method is not working. So please try and report. If it does not work, it does not really work. Developer still has to work around to deal with this auto smooth issue. But otherwise, I think this is actually a very good solution. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'll probably see you next time. Bye bye.